right, hello, hello, hello. Well, you know what? I think I need to manage my mods and my assets. I think I forgot to do that before opening. Let me do that. Okay. Hmm. Find it. First brush camera. Forced brush. Move it. Okay. That ought to help. All right. Just about showtime. Ooh. I need to do one more thing, Jack Daniels. Forgot to get you into audio chat, so bear with me just a second. Let me set that up. I might be running a little bit late on my start, guys. Sorry. So I forgot to do this. All right, Jack Daniels, I just sent you that invite and posted it in the Discord private chat or whatever, the government chat. So, hey, it's this guy.
Hey, this guy. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear feedback. I can hear the sound from your computer as well.
All right, how about now?
Let me test. Let me test, test, test. Nope, that's good. All right. Can't really see your face all that great, but
There we go. That's better.
all
You
right.
don't need to see me.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey guys, on the chat, if you can hear Jack Daniels Prime, let us know. If you can't, let us know. You should be able to hear him now. All right, guys, let's get this started. So, uh, in the chat on the Discord server, everybody was requesting more rail. So, MAOR rail is the name of the game today, I think. Do you concur, Jack Daniels?
Yeah, that's what I was seeing everybody wants.
All right, bro. So, you gonna make me get my southern accent out today, okay? I'll see how it
You
goes.
talk with whatever accent you want.
It just naturally occurs when I hear it. Okay.
Well, well, I don't have an accent.
Of course not. Of course not. Okay. So let's go over to our rail here. Let's try and plan it out. So, team two, and y'all need to be vocal on the chat here. I think we may need to alter some things to get this to work in a nice, clean fashion. And I don't know, where's my easement? I might have to go outside my easement to add that rail line. I have an assumption that you guys won't mind that, but let's give them a chance to confirm that before I just go wreck a ball. I guess we could call it eminent domain, but we at least want to get advice and consent of the populace. Yeah. So I'll
Yeah,
start
we
over
could
here.
also tunnel if we had to.
What's that?
We could also put it underground if we had to.
Yeah, I guess we could, but I mean, I'm not trying to go through a wrecking ball. So to be clear about what I'm proposing is, I would take this line here, and I would extend it here. I'd probably send it underground like it already does, and then back out like it already does. So just parallel to the existing line all the way through, at least to right here, and then let's see, yeah, right about here. I would just stop it and let Team One. You know what I could do, Jack Daniels, instead of doing all that, is I'll just take it from here to there, and then I'll let Team One do with it what they will, or Team Two do it
Works for
with it
me.
what they will. I think that makes more sense. I think that's more in the spirit of the game. I think it's less work for me, so I like it all
Yeah,
three. So,
just
hey
just connect
guys,
this
I know I'm
the
doing a live stream right now, but I got family out here, so they're knocking on my door. Let me see what they want. All right, crisis averted. Sorry about that, guys. Let's put this to daytime. I don't want it. Oh, it's not working right. Oh, I hate it when it does this. Okay. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stick it there, and then you guys, y'all do with the rail what you will. Alright. So I'm not going to lift it up, but obviously y'all can do that. I'll try and match it to the existing one, though. As close as I can. In fact, I probably will take that. You know, definitely won't need that. Let's get it a little closer, I think. Control A. And look at it to about right there. All right. What's that, Jack Daniels? I didn't hear you.
Nah, it was the radio here at work.
Oh, okay.
I forgot to turn it down.
Oh, that's all good, man.
Life of a rent-a-cop.
Give it a little bit of room there, and then I'll just go tunnel. Alright. I think we'll curve it a little bit. Actually, again, I'm going to let them finish that off so they can finish that off as they see fit. So that's a bit of an ugly transition there. So let's see if we can't fix that a little bit. I think the way we do this extend that all the way to White Street here. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all can pick it up underground here and take it to here. I would say that my advice is this is much better than what it was. There's enough length here, and there's a bypass, so that's all great. You want to be careful about getting too close to your ports from your main line, because I've had it where trains just back up for days. That being said, I think it ought to be okay, and ooh, that's not looking as good as I want it to. Let me alter that some more. Where's my? There it is. Okay. I'll alter it just a little bit more. Maybe take it down a bit. There we go. Okay. So there's that. And Team 1 was requesting rail connection over here. Now, I'm not going to delete what I have over there. That doesn't make much sense to me. To send all of the rail traffic through here. But we can certainly add this. Let's see how I want to do it. I don't know that I want it raised up like this. So what I might do is I might lower Kathleen Avenue here down to be submerged even more than it is. And then have this just go across at ground level, but bridge over Kathleen Avenue. And then over here have northbound, Czardus Interstate northbound, go over it and connect in somewhere over here. With rail, you want to have a lot of room before you start going up and down. You don't want to do too drastic of a slope that slows the trains down in real life, and it just causes more problems. And it's also just, even if the game can handle it, it's just also about the game. I'm sorry, about the realism of it in my eyes. Not that we do that on everything, but on this one, that's what I like to do. There we go. Why isn't that working, guys? Click. Click. Click align height. It should be white. And it's not working. It's glitching out on me a little bit here. I'm going to save the game. And then I'm going to quit to main menu. Sorry guys, technical difficulties here. Where is Billy Ben, Scott, or Exo? Whichever. I'm just gonna call you Scott because that's what I can read there. If this doesn't work, I might have to close the whole. You know what? I'm just gonna do it now, just for the sake of saving myself a potential extra step. I'm just gonna close the whole thing down and restart it. Hey, Scott, thanks for the sub on my channel, by the way. There's Jack Daniels. Just sitting there waiting.
That's all I do. Sit around.
All day, every day, man.
That's it.
Best Autobot ever, he said. Let's see if this doesn't hopefully fix some things. Because I was having a couple mods that were glitching on me. I couldn't change the time of day on the Ultimate Eye Candy mod, and it seems like the movement mod wasn't working right with the align height tool.
Yeah, I never did use the Ultimate Eye Candy. I just leave it daytime all the time.
Yeah, it's more or less what I do. The reason I like it is you can, in my personal cities, you can control where the sun is, like where north, south, east, and west is. And when I'm doing a real life map, that I really like that a lot. Okay, let's see if we can. It looks like we got that to work, which is nice. Now let's go and see about this. I think it's going to work. Alright, yeah, I just needed to reload it. That's computers for you. Did you restart it? Shut it off and start it again?
First thing the IT department says when you give them a call, did you restart it?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Alright, so let's get to create all kinds of fun stuff with this. I'm going to just start with that and see how it does. Okay. I'm going to obviously have to fix that. That's not going to work. Why is that so close? Why was that so close anyway? I don't even know. Okay. Grab it. Let's see how that height looks. That tractor looked good under there. That goofy donut truck. I hate that donut truck. The donut truck and the bug truck and the hot dog truck, they look too cartoony. I don't like them. I know I could fix that, but not in this particular build. Okay. So that looks good. Okay, then we're going to get it over to like here. Okay, so then the next thing we got to do is we got to raise this sucker up. Yeah, I think just the two. Page that up just a wee bit. And then take it over here. Let's see. It's just one of these. Bam. And I'll go ahead and do that for those two as well. And I think this will curve a little bit more. I really need to learn how to use Move It better. I'm telling you, man, it's the best thing since toilet paper. And I don't know about you, but I like toilet paper. You know, people underappreciate that stuff. I would imagine having life without it.
We'll use the 3 seashells method.
Okay, Demolition Man. Oh, man, that's great. He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells. I haven't thought about that movie in so long. It's such a cheesy movie, but I don't know. There's something great about it.
It's a good one, though.
Exactly. Like, completely, like, I can never see that future ever even thinking about coming to fruition, but I still like it.
Yeah, the day we need a reservation for a Taco Bell.
Ooh. Be well. Yeah. That looks good to me. Does that look good to you, Jack?
Looks good to me.
All right. Anybody else have Taco Bell winner of Fast Food Wars? Anybody else on the chat have any plates, issues, suggestions over here or over there? What I did there. The only thing I think I need to do is probably... This is me being picky. Probably lower that down just a wee bit. Maybe raising these up just a wee bit. Just a tinge. Yeah, that looks way better to me. How look from this side. Not as good from this side, but I think I'm only gonna get that so good with where everything is located. I have more of a question. Are you for or against DDI's diverging diamond interchanges? So me personally, I've actually driven a couple different diverging diamonds in Kansas City, most specifically. And I like in this game to use a truncated diverging diamond. So it's not a full-on diverging diamond, but it does the same concept. And it's basically utilizing the game's mechanics. The big downside to using my truncated diverging diamond is that you don't have these little slip lanes. And so they do slow down more than if you had a proper one. You have a proper one, then it works more like how this interchange goes. So this isn't a diverging diamond interchange, but it is using some of the same principles where I don't have an intersection here. I have them slipping in. And so it kind of creates a little bit of a faster move, like the cars move along a little bit faster. The downside to the way I have this here is there's no way for somebody that's getting off to get back on. But because of how there's no feeder road here, it's just just getting off to this and getting back on, there should be no need for a car to go straight through. If they're going straight through, they just need to stay on the freeway. So, in real life, sometimes you need to consider those things because, if somebody gets off and they have an accidental exit, then they got to go all the way around just to come back. But you got this circle here, and it'll work out. And, so I'm not against it. I don't think this, if we look at the traffic here, I don't think it's nearly warranted here. I almost never this is just a personal note. I'm not trying to say that you all need to change this. And even if I did think you needed to change it because of the rules of the game, you don't. But I don't like all the roundabouts. I think a roundabout has its place, and I've used them before. But I think it's being overused in Team 1, by Team 1 here. That being said, whatever works for you guys, and as long as it looks good to you guys. I do think the city is I like this city better than Discordia. And not to say that Discordia wasn't great. I liked it, but this one it seems more real to me. And so I like that aspect of it. Okay, let me focus on what I'm doing next. So I got the rail in. Am I doing anything? Yeah, I got that. I got this extra rail here. One thing I was thinking about, guys, is that this is, again, just me spitballing here, but it's up to the two teams, is why wouldn't y'all put a ferry, some ferries in, to be able to ferry back and forth to the two different cities? I don't know. I've heard some complaints that they wish there were more connections to the cities and that kind of thing. It's like, well, you can always, if y'all create a ferry and then y'all create a ferry, I'll connect the two. If you put the infrastructure in, I'll make it happen. So that leads me to this. We have our bus line here and intercity line. This is our line here. So we got 2 stops. We're running about 300 people waiting at either stop. Let's go look over here. Yeah, so that's being well used. I like how they've made this a proper hub here. Now, I have a question for Team 2. I noticed that this was labeled as a hub as well. Do you guys, y'all, seems like y'all moved this from where I had put it, which is fine. That was perfectly within the guidelines that I had provided. So I'm not going to move it, but I guess the only thing I can think of is maybe putting some more capacity or putting a second line. Let's see here. I lost it. I thought I had it. So right now it has 18 buses. Let's see how quickly a bus comes behind this one. That's a different bus. So yeah, there's actually quite a bit of time. So let's up this. Let's take it to 22. 22. Can't speak too much about the public transit in Team 2 because I haven't been handling it. So remind me, Scott, remind me what team you're on. You're on Team 2. Okay, I get that. When you say talked about that, you talked about making a ferry. I'm only looking back at the chat every so often, so I'm trying to catch up. Ideally, as we can go high density, I want to see the Old Town section have a transit hub. Yeah. That makes sense to me, but it's y'all's city, not mine. Yes, we've talked about doing the ferry. Yeah, I think, that's up to you guys, but it would be my suggestion, personally. Yeah, all of these are full. It's not like we don't have enough people getting onto them. Let's see. Let's go hog wild. I can always turn this back down. I probably will from 50. Let's double it. It would also be a nice touristy feature too. Yeah. Yeah, well, and then that also opens up, I think, I don't know if it allows you to or it just makes more sense to me at least. You have the little boat museum, which is a nice little tourist attraction there too. And then, I don't know if y'all see this, but I made sure when I was doing this was not quite how the map came. The biggest editing I did on the map itself, besides where the roads were and the rail, was I made sure that this channel was wide enough and deep enough to allow this shipping lane to come into this bay and do this little loop in the bay, so that you guys would have access to it within here, and you wouldn't have to worry about doing it out here, because I also knew the chances of us doing anything out here were going to be smaller than we were going to be focusing most of our attention in this section of the city. So we're drastically reducing the number of people at the bus stop. The only thing is do we have congestion now of our buses? We got 3 buses right in a row right there. 4th bus. Another 3 buses right in a row. But it is taking it down. I don't know. I mean, as long as it's not causing traffic issues. Oh, look at this. I wish I could move this little tool, this little info panel. So it looks like it is causing a bit of traffic with the way you'll have this road set up. So you might put a dedicated stop to that line. I think it's going to be quite a bit better over here, because they do have a dedicated line. Yeah, so it is stopping, but the traffic isn't backing up because they have a dedicated spot. The only thing I might do is I might move it down here, but again, I'm going to let y'all deal with that since it's in y'all city. If you guys have, so you got to, let's see, do we have, oh, okay, so you just went to the team so that everybody knows that's not watching the stream. I got you. So that's a cargo hub. We don't have any commuter rail, do we? Oh, look, we have a commuter rail right here. So it looks like Team 1, y'all, y'all don't need to, but it might be behoove you guys to put in a commuter rail somewhere. Maybe somewhere around here, since you got a rail line here and you got some space here. And then once y'all do that, between next round, the beginning of round 4, I can go ahead and connect those two, so that you can also get rail going between the two cities. And I think
that was the purpose of the rail you just put in.
That makes sense to me. And so they can take it and do with it what they will, and put that in. But what I'm trying to confirm is that we will connect those once the infrastructure is in place. And then the other thing I would say is, it might be early for some people to think about an airport, but I think putting an airport, maybe we could either put it over here and actually just connect it to Team 2 here, or we could stick it up somewhere over here. Were you were saying over here earlier, Jack Daniels, weren't you?
Yeah, somewhere in that general area along that highway up through there.
I kind of like the idea of putting it over here, actually. It makes more... That's where I would put it in my own city, I think. But... And then connect it across the river there. But I do like the idea that this is going to have better access for the whole thing. So I think this will be... I'm just going to kind of put it out. So let's see, how big is the airport? So the big airport's like that, but just a regular airport. Either way we go, we can fit it in there. All right. All right, so this area I'm going to designate for airport. The future site of the airport. You got to plan these things years ahead of time. You got to buy the land now, right?
That's it.
All right, future airport there. Won't put it in this time because nobody on either of the teams seemed like they were into it. You know, I noticed during the time, I think Pimin or Pimim or however it's pronounced. My apologies for butchering it because I butcher everything. Was talking about how there was a lot of traffic specifically around this intersection. What was going on is they were all the traffic was slowing down right about here, and it was backing up, and it was backing up all the way to over here. And so one of the things I want to make sure that everybody knows is you just press escape and make sure that your mouse doesn't die on you like mine just did. It always helps. All right, so you press escape, you go to options, you go to TMPE 10.19. Is that you, Jack Daniels?
Yeah.
All right,
There's
and
an alarm.
then sorry, bro. And then you go to gameplay here, and you want to uncheck disable despawning. You want to enable advanced AI and enable more realistic parking, and that's going to help change any major backups. I mean, you're still going to have traffic, but it's just going to keep the city running. You know, on my personal builds, sometimes I will turn on disable despawning, but that's really for super advanced traffic management, and this city is never going to be that. It's just not in the design, and so we don't want to do that. So make sure that you check your settings if you're having problems with traffic. And the other thing I would say, guys, is understand that I know that this is not the most efficient way to do this. I know that this is not the biggest highway you could possibly have. I know only having one road connection between the two cities is limiting. And that's the idea. It's supposed to be limiting. It's not to. We're not trying to just explode this thing. We want to build it up slowly. There's red tape in real life. You gotta go to the government. The government's gotta decide what it's gonna do, and then you gotta negotiate and all this stuff. And that's part of the role play that we're trying to have here. So, if you see something that I've done that you don't like, I'm always interested in hearing what you have to say. I'm always welcoming your comments, your suggestions, your ideas. Doesn't mean I always will take them, particularly if state and local government, Jack Daniels, Nuki Duke, and Czardus decide against something. If they decide against something, I'm never going to override them because I work for them. And then, I also use my own judgment. But as you can see, I will take suggestions when we feel they're appropriate and reasonable. One thing that I noted is somebody, I think it was Pimin again, put a U-turn right here, right on the freeway. And then they ended up with my comments doing this, and this was a much better solution because you're actually solving it. We shouldn't be messing with the highway itself. And the one thing I want to check here is my speed limits, make sure those haven't changed because that can cause issues. Yeah, so like right here, my freeway got changed and the speed limit didn't. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it does make a difference. And so we want to make sure that we're paying attention to those things where we are interfacing in easements with my freeways. And they are my freeways. Yes, my precious freeways. All right. Now, somebody was talking about parking happening. And I don't know that that's a big deal, but I don't want parking to occur. So we can go ahead and turn these off. All right, I'm going to look at comments over here. So Scott, you're blowing me up, and I'm not good at this stuff. So hold on. It would also be nice to have a touristy feature too. Ideally, I would want the cargo harbors closer to that bridge that crosses over into Team 1. You mean this bridge over here? Or do you mean that bridge over there? Bridge A or Bridge B? The idea of putting it close to Team 2, however, I'd want to dedicate state and national highway for it. I think you're talking about the airport, and we decided where that's going. What are your thoughts on where it went? I don't understand why so many vehicles are trying to make U-turns. It's just the way the game works. It's just something you need to accommodate in your cities. It's just take that as one more design constraint that we need to meet. I'm not saying it's the way it ought to be. I'm not, but it's the way the game is. So we just got to deal with that. Don't understand. Oh, okay. Yes, that was me talking about parking. Okay. Yes, the first bridge, Bridge A. Okay. So, well, I hear you, man. If and when you get this area over here, I guess you can do that. Certainly, Team 1 can do that anytime they wish, if they wish to have it over here. But you could probably do it as far in upriver as over here and still make where it is. So you can always move it too. I mean, it's really easy to click on something when you're not using the non-parking. So you click on it and just click that little button there. It does cost some money, but we have a nice infinite amount of money, so that's something to consider. I don't really care one way or the other. It's just me talking about what I would do on some level. Okay, Jack Daniels, what do I need to do? I need to give them new areas.
New areas. And I think it's probably about it.
All right. Oh, I was putting in no parking. That's what I was doing. I'll put in the new areas in a second. Parking on the highway, just generally frowned upon. Don't do that. Particularly in real life. All right. That's that understreet there. Okay. Yeah, let me see what you did here. So, just FYI for you guys, it doesn't really matter to me. This is working well enough that it does not need to be changed. But something that I like to do in my cities is I try and make this as straight as possible, and you probably want to pull it back. I'm not going to actually do it here because I don't want to flub with it. But the more you do that, and like right here, if you make this more straight, like this, too much, but right there, that's the sweet spot. And this has kind of got kinked up. So I'm pressing Alt and then moving it, and you notice how it's snapping like that. It's not working quite as well as I'd like, but it does make things run smoother. And if you can, before you've done your lane connectors here, now that we've done the lane connectors, it's not going to change the arrows for some reason. But if you do it before you do your lane connectors, and you see that little turn arrow there, or these two turn arrows here, if those turn to straight, you know you've done your job. Because the amount of slowdown, which is very minimal right here, so it's not a big deal for this particular intersection, but for other intersections it can be, particularly if people are slowing down to turn right and then it's creating a backup. Having it nice and straight just makes that turn nice and easy. And then B, it's also just more realistic, typically. I want to give a shout out to the people who did this Discover here. I like it. Good job. Good going. Cool deal. Okay. So did the parking. Let's go ahead and add areas. So Team 2 only used about half of their new area. which I think is fabulous. I think that's not smart. That is smart. Sorry, it's not smart. It's fabulous. Team 2, I'm sorry, that was Team 2. Team 1, they also only used maybe used a little bit more than half, but I also think they had a slightly smaller area, or at least it wasn't as square. It was more rectangular. So one of the requests I got, Jack Daniels, was for us to give them a highway connection over to Nuki Duke Highway over here. What are your thoughts about that?
I would say put the connection in and just run it inside their zone and let them connect it themselves.
Yeah, so I wouldn't connect it to the road here.
Yeah, just
But
into the
you
district.
think it's cool to put it in? I agree.
Yeah, with the amount of traffic that's going up through there, I think it would help.
Okay. So the one thing to think about that with Team 1 is the minute that you connect it, a lot of people are going to try and bypass this to go through your city here. Depends on speed limits and stuff, so it might not necessarily, but I would imagine that you'll get a lot more traffic actually traveling through your city. So that's something to keep in mind, but I will go ahead and add it. I think I'll add it right over here. I want to think about how this airport is going to go. So the big airport, if and when we put it in, will come out like this. So I want to give it a little bit of space, so I'll probably put it right over here. It's right about there. And I think I'm just going to do an overpass here. So I'm going to do it right about here. I think my chair will go down on me every once in a while. I don't understand why that is. I ain't that fat. Not yet. Okay, so have it elevated. Page up to 10 meters. And let's say bring it to about right there. And go home. About right there. All right, now here, I'm going to change it to an avenue, like so. And then we'll take these. So I'll take it, and I'll click it, and make sure I have my snapping going. Oh, and I don't want to have it attached to the ground yet. No. Bring that home. I'm going to turn off this toggle node snapping. Why isn't it? Something's not right. Something's not right with my interface. I can't move around. What's going on? I click my middle mouse button. I use AWSD. It's not moving around. What in the world? Pause still works. Escape still works. I have never had this happen to me. I can zoom in and out with the mouse wheel.
I've had that happen before.
You have?
Yep. It wouldn't turn or anything.
So do I just need to restart the game?
That's the only way I've figured out how to fix it.
All right. So I'm going to turn this to... Now, I proposed going to round 3, team 3, or round 3, team 1, so that it makes more sense with the organization on the drive. Instead of having the team first, you have the round first. That makes more sense to me. Wouldn't it make it more sense to you?
Yeah, that would actually make perfect sense.
So, round 3, team 3. All right. Oh, this has been a glitchy thing. It's probably my fault. According to the flowchart, everything is my fault. Well, Scott, you need to, go back to bed and start over or something, man. Like, get your life together, okay? You're really pissing me off with this whole glitching me out. All right. Guess the next thing I got to do is start my computer on and off, right?
Yeah, it's because Scott likes to hide things in plain sight.
I didn't see. I saw that y'all were talking about a meme earlier or something like that. What was that referring to?
Oh, it's something he built on Team 2's side that references himself that nobody has noticed.
Oh, I'm gonna have to take a look at this now. Oh, mystery. So, besides adding the zoning, is there anything else I need to work on? I did the bus lines. I dealt with that by just adding a shitload more to the line. Put the rail in. The freeways seem like they're working when you have the right settings. Put it as no parking. I think that's it. Okay, at least I can move around now. That's nice. It always helps when you can move around your map. Okay, so that's the first time that's ever happened to me. What?
Scott's blaming me for it.
Oh, shit. I know better than to argue with you, man. Alright, so... See, that's going to get it too close to this intersection. I don't like that.
That's what I was thinking. I would move the whole thing up another between the next set of trees.
Alright, Jack, you might be right. Like over here?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
I love the Move It mod. Can I just, say that right now?
I think everybody loves the Move It mod.
I'm telling you, man. I can't tell you how many times. Like, do you know how much time I just saved by just, like, clicking and moving it?
Yeah, I need to learn to use it a little bit better myself, too.
Alright. I'm going to pause it. Because I think this is going to need to get upgraded to 2 lanes now I'm putting this in.
Yeah, plus with the airport going in the future, it will help them, too.
Yeah. You have an excellent point there. Okay. I'll have to think about that, too. See how that arrow is straight? That's what you're looking for. But problem is, if and when I upgrade this to 2 lanes, I think I might not do those. So I need to just move that over to allow for that expansion. Where is it? Oh yeah, we don't have it here, so I gotta use the avenue. I forgot about that. Come on. Don't want to use it there. Okay, so means we need to adjust this just a wee bit. Come on now. There we go. All right, there we go. That looks good. This one looks like it needs some adjusting.
I think you've still got a glitch down at the other one.
How's that right here?
Yep, right down there, right there.
All right, taken care of.
Looks good.
All right. All right, so we got that one. I think we'll extend this out just a wee bit. That's good. Give them some time. And we'll go back over here, grab this sucker. And I think we'll start it off from here. All right. There we go. Okay, and it looks good to me. Do you concur?
I think the lane on the back side needs some adjusting.
Right here?
Yeah. Looks like it drops down too fast compared to the other side.
Oh, it looks fine to me.
It could just be longer at the end then.
It is a little bit longer. You mean right here? It is.
Then that'll work.
Yeah, well, something's going on where it's... I know what's going on here. Does that help things? I think it did. I'm happy with the way that looks. You know, the other thing that we could do is we could lower this down a little bit, and that way we could lower that down a little bit.
Check your pier underneath. Make sure it's not in the road.
Up here. Oh, you right there? Yeah, I can adjust that in a little bit. And I'll turn off all these lights too. Ugh. Alt and click. Make it nice and straight. I think we'll bring it actually like all the way back to here. And I think what I'll do is I will make this attached to the ground. Right there.
Yeah, Scott says to switch the direction on the one ramp as well. It's going the wrong way.
You know what? I always forget to do that. I mean, always. Always forget to do that. That's a good point. I didn't know how to do that for the longest time. And you just right click instead of left click when you have the little exclamation mark upgrade road function on. For those that don't know, I mean, talk about life saving. And actually, I need to do it there too. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Come on. There we go. No light for you. No light for you. No light for you. All right, you go there, and you go there. You go there, and you go there. Right click, left click. You just go straight. And I'm going to say you go there, but then also you actually go there. We'll have to merge there. Because they're going to have to merge here anyway. So might as well just dedicate that lane there. In fact, if I had it, I would do this as a 2 lanes on this side and 1 lane asymmetrical, that going that way. That would actually be more ideal. But I could actually kind of force that without, it won't look as good, but make that lane go there and then make that lane go straight. And not allow that second lane to go straight. I think that'll solve a lot of problems in the future. The traffic. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'll leave that there in case somebody somehow gets in there. But, yeah, that way, if they decide to change lanes, they're just going to have to change them right back over here. I don't know. What I could do is to make sure that doesn't happen is just be like, nope, you go straight. All right, force it. Let's up the speed limit on this stuff. 80, 80, 80, 80. And I'll leave that at 50. But this will go to 100. And 100. And 100. Yeah, that's 100. Okay. All right. Oh, I know what else I want to do. No crosswalking. Don't stop. Just keep going. No crosswalking. Don't stop. Just keep going. All right, and Jack Daniels, you need to be quiet, man. You're talking too much. I don't like it.
Well, I know what you mean. You get me started, I just can't shut up.
I'm telling you what. All right. All right, guys. do it this way. Eminent domain. Occurring there. Alright. So now y'all can do with y'all what you will with that. Team 1. You got a nice extra dedicated connection there.
Scott says, don't forget to turn off the parking.
Scott's really got a problem with parking, man. What happened to free parking?
He's married.
So am I.
Us married people
Actually,
don't park anymore.
later this month, I got to brag on this a little bit. Later this month will be our 8th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's mostly due to her patience more than anything.
I'm coming up on 5, I think, for the second time.
Did you have 5 the first time as well?
17.
Oh, wow. That had to be rough. I can't imagine, man.
It was.
I'm sorry to hear it. But I'm glad, well, sorry to hear the first one, but I'm glad you got the second one going and it's going strong, I guess.
Yeah, it works.
Oh, that's not my road. Guess there's no parking because it's elevated. Yeah. All right. Just for you, Scotty. All right. We just celebrated our 4th last month. Congratulations. All right. Now, so that people can actually start planning. Because they couldn't plan till now, apparently. Unless you ask Jack Daniels. So what do you think, man? Should I give this one to him? Should I give it to him?
I think I'd like to see them build on the other side of the interstate and kind of spread them. No, yeah, on the other side. Yeah, right there.
Kind of give them. Interesting. Really? Really? So what do you think should happen with that? Because I don't think that should stay plain. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give them. I'm gonna just be mean to Team 2. I'm gonna give Team 2 just this little spot here, and I'm gonna connect it. I'm gonna make that connected. That'll be their first non-highway connection. What do you think, Jack? Like, I won't connect it to this freeway.
I didn't hear you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm instead of making this just a one-way overpass, even though I did all that work, I'm going to make it go all the way across. And then I'm going to let Team 2 have this little triangle here. Not only that triangle, then I'll add elsewhere. But they'll get this triangle, so if they want to bridge across, they can, or they don't want to, they don't have to. They can just use this area for themselves or however they want.
I thought we were keeping them separated by the river.
So they're never going to touch, ever?
I think that was the original plan, was to keep each team on their side of the river.
Okay.
That way
What
it
if they want
stays
to bridge
two
across?
distinct cities. I mean, we could give them a bridge at different places. That's no problem. But as far as them building on that side of the river, I don't think that was the intention.
Okay. So don't give that to 2, give it to 1?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I see what you're saying, though. All right, so now I want Team 1 to take note. Is anybody in the chat that's representing Team 1? Team 1, take note. This is not an easement the way you had over on the other side. Because I put that in, it's not an easement. And also, Team 1, you're going to have to work with Team 2 a little bit on this one if you want a bridge to go across to their start. I'm going to because they have the river at this point. So they're the ones who can really build a bridge. You guys can only receive it. What do you think about all that? Okay. I still need to work on that, though, some more. And then where else am I going to give them?
I think that would probably actually be enough given the amount of space they still have left over from the last turn.
You think? I mean...
And because that way we can keep the growth slow.
Oh. Okay, it's not how I would do it, but you're the boss.
Well, I'm second or third down the line.
You're my boss, so good enough for me.
And then probably the same with Team 2, just give them a small area to complement what they've already got. That would work. Like as far down as the interchange there.
I don't like this at all. I'll be honest, man. I'll do it, but it's not how I would do it.
It's just a suggestion. I mean,
I'm not trying to be contrary. I'm just trying to voice my opinion. You're welcome, Scott. I appreciate you watching and hanging out with me. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that if I'm gonna, I don't mind giving them a smaller amount of space, but I think what I would do, and I can always add this back if you're like, no, Chris, do it my way.
I was going to say we could do that section there and then add one on the other end to give them more access to the bay. Give each team 2 small sections in different areas.
Like this over here?
Yeah.
Just kind of give it like a little sliver. Because my idea is that these 2 islands will go to Team 1 eventually. Team 1 will occupy this area eventually. And Team 2 will occupy all this. And I don't know, probably give them this other side at some point too.
Yeah, eventually they'll get there.
Yeah, so Team 2, for planning purposes, you guys, y'all will get a crescent, so to speak, going along the edge of the river here, and all the way up to there. Eventually, I'm not going to tell you when or how or what have you. And then Team 1, y'all will get this. Y'all will get these 2 little islands since Team 2 already got that 1 island, and it'll come back around up and across here. Alright, so this needs to get upgraded. See, that makes me want to do a whole different kind of exchange, though. I want to change that, take that off, and do something over here.
Go for it. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a whiny baby. Just be lazy or anything. Just how I think it. Hey, Painted, how's it going, buddy? Welcome to the stream. I'm almost done with it, honestly. Now, Painted Heptagon, remind me, you're on Team 1, is that correct? Alright, bro. So we were going to add this little sliver here for you guys, but I think I single-handedly decided against it. Jack Daniels didn't shoot me down, so. Alright, I think instead, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it like this. Oh, Jack has already spoken on that one. I'm sorry, Jack. Can you answer Painted Heptagon in the chat there? You see what he's saying? He's requesting, can we get a place at the water a bit more because we want to build the harbor?
Yeah, that's kind of why I was thinking on the other side of the interstate there. Because that'll give them
waterfront. Over here?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about back here. Oh, okay. That makes way more sense.
Down there.
Jack, man, you gotta be more clear. You're killing me. It's all your fault.
It's the accent.
What's that you say there, Sonny? Okay. All right. No, I'm all about this. Okay. All about this.
Then maybe up as far as the rail line that's there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, yeah. Okay, now we're on the same page. Hey, I like it.
We get there eventually.
Ain't pretty to look at, but boy, that sausage does taste good.
At least you didn't say bacon.
All right.
Okay, next question. Do they have a way under the I can't even talk. Under the interstate to get into that, or do we need to add something in there?
No, they got it already, man. Look at that.
Awesome.
They already even have it planned out, which is great. They got their avenue set up. Here, let me take this.
And that works.
It's called Major Road. They got a major road under the major road. Right there. So, yeah, they'll be able to take that avenue and up into here and put a harbor in there. They're gonna really have to manage their traffic though if they're putting a industrial harbor here, and then all their industries up here. Oh, that's gonna be kind of rough on them. And I do actually appreciate that Team 1 did not try and connect up here because it's really not designed. I mean, look how high that is. It's just not designed for that. It's really designed to be gone under, just like they did. And I can't really see the way this. I guess you could maybe have a slip lane come off of here, but it wouldn't be a proper interchange where you have it going on both sides. You know what I'm saying? You can maybe do like a slip lane from here going under that rail to there. Don't want to get it too close to that. So actually might prefer doing it back here, and you have to move your power plants a little bit. On the you want this area. Well, so let's be clear, Painted Heptagon. This area will be yours eventually, but not this time. I'm sorry. I'm gonna blame Jack Daniels on that one. But no, y'all will get this area for now. Team. We would be better for a harbor. Yeah, you might just have to talk with the team 2 for the harbor and focus on maybe doing a ferry or something. I don't know. Team 1, round 3. All right. Team 2, round 3. Can we get a rail connection to our round 3 district then? Well, I don't know, man. We got a rail connection in there for you. We did connect a second rail over here. The major problem I have with putting a rail connection here is I guess we could push it off like that and just kind of go straight off of it like that. Do you have any thoughts, Jack Daniels?
That's about the only way I see of doing it. We'd have to come off that line somewhere.
Any other place, and it's just going to be like way too high.
But they'll need a way for the train to go.
Yeah, so they don't. Yeah, so they don't have like the right connection over here. This connection is really designed just to get out of town.
Yeah, but anything you put up there in the new district is going to push everything through town unless you connect something to go out across the line.
So to make sure I understand what you're saying, Jack Daniels, you're saying that if I don't put some sort of like a U-turn, or like bring this out over here and connect it that way, then there's no way for them to come back this way.
Well, I mean, they can not there in the new section.
So in the new section, what?
Okay, you see how you got the loop there for the rail line? No, in the new district.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about over here?
No, the new district. Right? Yeah, right there. I hate the delay on these.
Okay.
All right. Okay, you see how that circles around?
Yeah, right there.
There's no connection to go out of town there, across the state line, or however you want.
Yeah.
You'd have to connect something to go that way as well.
Go that way. Why?
For incoming freight from
stuff that's just coming in to go out.
See, anything that comes in on that line has to go in through the city. And get turned around to be able to go back out to if they put a harbor down there. You need like a Y junction there or something.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I wasn't trying to do that earlier is because the height difference here. If you look, this circle is as much about getting up in elevation, because this goes underneath. So if I guess I could throw it off like back here, but then I got to go over this thing, which I guess I could lower that down a little bit. So I got to throw it off of here, go over that, and then connect to it over here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm thinking you could just do it right there on the circle out toward the water.
Just stick it right there?
Yeah, like right there. And then however they run the rail.
Or are you talking about doing just like a Y junction right like down over here somewhere and then straight out to the water?
Well, I mean, they could come off the circle to the harbor.
Okay, so bring it over here, and then go off shoot from there.
Yeah, it could go down that way, and then they could shoot off down that way. But when they come back, if the train wants to go turn to the right from the way we're looking at it, they would need some kind of connection there.
Okay, I think I'm gonna build something knowing that we can always delete it if we don't like it. So something like that.
That's almost what I was thinking, but you would just need something coming off of that last turn onto the other direction, like a triangle.
Like that, or really what it would be is more like this.
Yeah, that would work. That way the train can go any direction it needs to go.
See, one of the problems I've had in the past with these kinds of things, which is why I'm hesitant to do it, is this is smaller than the length of a train, and so if there's a train backed up right here, it blocks everything else. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I like to spread out
But
my junctions. Go ahead.
Right. But I mean, that's just a general idea. But I mean, they're going to put their train depot. They're going to put that down by the harbor.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you want me to alter this, or is this good for you?
I mean, if it's in their zone, they can alter it to.
Well,
make it
I'm
work.
gonna. It's in what I had currently zoned, but I would do like this.
But,
honestly.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's the basic idea behind what I was getting at. So if you can improve on it, be my guest.
My damn chair's gone low again. I'm gonna have to buy me a new
That's
chair.
going to be my last thing tonight. I got to get ready to pack up and head to the house.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap this up myself. So I'll see you later, Haas. Appreciate you coming on.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All
Y'all have a good night.
I'll do some of this work. I honestly don't like this asset at all. It looks ugly, particularly up close. Guess it looks better from far away, but so I guess it really where it looks good is way up close, but yeah, no thanks. All right, let's see. Paint have to go. Yes, looks beautiful. Make it bigger then. Make it bigger. All right. I don't think I'm gonna. I'm trying to think. Like, would I change this in any way? Honestly, I don't think I will. I think I'll leave it like that. Painted heptagon. Do you see a potential issue here that I'm not seeing? I think that'll work just fine. As long as we don't have backups, and you guys should take this far away from this junction before you put any kind of depot or what have you. Yeah, so I think the backups ought to be avoided as long as we make sure that when we do we turn off the disable despawn. So we make sure that despawn is enabled. So that way, we don't get large backups, particularly with trains. That happens often when you have the despawn deactivated. Okay, so now that we've done that, got that named. Got our future airport over here in this area here. We did upgrade and stick this in here. Let me make sure something, because I changed it and I changed it back. I bet you I lost my... Yeah, I did. Make sure that those work correctly. There we go. That looks good. Okay. The freight hub. So what you could do, if you go to your harbor here, you got the cargo hub here. Is that what you're talking about? And you just throw it in like right there. Take a look at the traffic at that new, right? You mean right over here? Let's look at my options, make sure I have my options. Because I had to stop it and start it, so yeah, that's all right. No, not this area. Okay. Talking about over here? All right, so what am I looking at, Bo? Yeah. Car just did a U-turn. I haven't seen one. I see them. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, they're just passing through the city from one side to the other. They're just doing their little U-turn. Eventually they'll have the airport to do that at. But the info panels. Bottom right. We're talking about this one here. You want me to do that one there? I mean, I see it. Like, there's no way to the game's gonna have those U-turn, those guys coming in and going right back out, and I can't change that behavior. So, yeah, it's not going to be much, and it might be increased. But what I would say is, I don't know if this was you or if I was maybe talking to Scott earlier. That's just a constraint of the game. That's the way the AI works, and whether I like it or not, that's part of it. What I would say is, whenever you're planning your intersections here, I would just put that into the plan. So if somebody wants to U-turn, maybe you just give them like a little U-turn right there or something like that. Or well, actually, the way y'all had this set up the whole time is that y'all have all these roundabouts. So a good roundabout right there would take care of that just fine. The other thing I guess I could do, let's see if it doesn't mess things up too bad. Oh, that was thunder. Here, let me check my my radar, because we had tornadoes in the area earlier. Yeah, shouldn't have a tornado be coming. You think that'll solve that problem for you, Bo? I don't know. I'll go look at the roundabout in a second. Let me fix this up first, because that is ugly. Ugh, that is ugly. Guess really what needs to happen is that needs to get raised up a little bit. Honestly, this needs to go down, but can it afford to go down? I think it can. Wait till our lorry goes under. Do y'all hear that thunder? That's not a sound effect. That's straight up right outside my window here. We had at least one tornado north of here today, and then we had a tornado just about 20 miles away from me on Sunday. Kind of crazy. All right. Let's see how our U-turners are going now. Oh, I hate this chair. I'm going to have to buy a new one. It's really starting to piss me off. It's sinking down a little bit at a time. Yeah, I'll look at that in a second. I'm just kind of looking. So they're still going off and doing the U-turn over there. Even though I have this right here, I don't know what to tell you on that one, buddy. Well, I'm going to leave that one alone. It is what it is at this point. Okay, so let's look at this over here. Why do we have so much traffic here? Seems like it's really about this, the least of that vehicle. I don't know what that means. Yeah, it seems like it's really something's going on right here. It's just a lot of traffic trying to get over to the other side. It's just a merge issue. These guys would just get over in this lane. Yeah. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to focus on that because oh, that's about ugly. So the thing about that is what you're talking about is just taking this and instead of going to there, it just goes straight to there. But then it's just going to have the problem down over here because they're wanting to get right back over. And actually, right now, seems like it's helping. You know what I'm going to do? And another thing that might help it is to have that be not so curved in. And it'll also help not to have that so close. So he comes into the middle lane. Oh, okay. So one of the problems you got is I think we need a... You got to always let the roundabout traffic have priority, and right now they're stopping for these guys to come out. Yeah, honestly, guys, I wouldn't leave this as a roundabout. I would change this to be a more efficient intersection. But that's just me. I'm gonna leave it to you guys. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm getting tired, and I need to move on. So, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna change the time of day. 10 a.m. We're gonna save the game, and we are going to go ahead and end with a little cinematic. So let's get the record going. I think we'll do it at 4 times. We'll load up. Let's go over show off. And it can be at 30. Alright. At the end of Discover, we'll have all... I'm going to do this every single round, so we'll have all the comparisons. It'll be really cool. Mm-hmm. You know, I know what a diverging diamond is. I've driven on diverging diamonds. You know, I think that if that's what you guys want to do, y'all can do that. I think that might be more efficient than what you got going on right now. But it'll be up to you guys. That's ultimately your guys' decisions. I think that if the highway's going to change at all, the only thing that I think that would change is making it a 3-lane each way instead of a 2-lane each way. So 6 lanes instead of 4. Besides that, I think that lane is going to pretty much stay the same. Or that highway, I should say. You know, I think starting on round 5, we'll start actually having you guys close enough to where y'all can connect with bridges and stuff to each other. And it'll really be a game changer, I think. Also note that we have added After Dark as well as snowfall. So you'll have access to trams now, and you have access to doing like a leisure district, that kind of thing. So make sure when you're doing your planning, you'll plan that in. I forgot to remove the camera for the cinematics. Forgot to remove the camera for the cinematic. Oh, I got my ugly mug on it. Oh. I don't know when you'll get your area. I don't think we've planned that out yet, so. But I see what you're saying. I need to take my ugly mug off. There we go. Oh, that looks so ugly. I forgot to fix that. The rail there. Yeah, my PC is a bit loud. I'm sorry, bro. It's actually a desktop replacement. It's not a PC or like a desk. It's not a desktop. It's a laptop. Um, so there's only so much I can do about that PC noise. Uh, oh, not what I wanted to do. And right now it's working extra hard too, because it's really being stressed with all the graphics that I'm having to do, and it's recording and all that stuff. So I don't know. You got any suggestions on how I could make that better? I'm always open for it. I got a Yeti mic. You can. Well, you can't see it right now, but yeah. Got the Yeti mic right there. So I don't know if you can see that, and I don't know. There's much more I can do about it than what I do with what I got with the setup I have. So. Might have been your fans. Well, I certainly can't help you on your fans. Alright. All right, man. Let's turn it off first. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, guys. As you see things while you're playing, you're welcome to bring them up to my attention. You might wait to towards the end of your turn to bring it all up to my attention all at once, or maybe the end of Team Two's turn for Team One, so I can kind of get that all fresh in my mind as I'm about to get into this for next round. If there's a major problem, you can maybe bring it up to me. But otherwise, just kind of try and live within the balance that we got for you, and just know that you bring it up, and I'll address it next time around. All right, guys. So I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for playing with me.